Hi guys, it's that time again when we put together a very special chat on what went behind the scenes in getting your favorite magazine to you, the real behind the scenes moments from Fortune India, and I'm joined by the architects of this issue, my lovely colleagues Saurabh Majumdar and Ajita Sashidhar. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. And we've all been waiting to understand why this one is special for a number of reasons, Saurabh. The issue, of course, is Fortune India, most powerful women in business. It's incredibly important, but this time, Saurabh, it's taken even more, it's really gained more significance because the list has expanded. It's a special issue.
Absolutely, Ayush. I think, this year every year the MPW issue is very special for us because it stands for something. And Fortune India and Fortune as a whole, as a brand, has been extremely particular about the issue of women at work, empowering women, bringing women up front and forward, and chronicling the success of various women achievers across the country. This year, like you rightly pointed out, it is particularly special because we have expanded the list from 50, which was the earlier number, to 100. So, you might ask me, why so many people? That's because there are so many women achievers in this country. So we thought after internal deliberations that it does not make sense to have a list of just 50 women achievers, and then we are forced to leave out several others who are doing absolutely top-class work across the country. And we must celebrate them. We must include their work and their profiles in the magazine. So that's the reason why from 50 to 100. And I must say, Ajita is here. She was instrumental in putting the issue together. All of our colleagues also worked on various stories around it. It was an absolutely thrilling experience because just to understand the kind of work these people are doing, and of course Ajita will go into the details, but just to understand the kind of work these people are doing, the kind of iconic stature some of them have, and the ones which are coming into the list and doing even equally good work, so that's just something fabulous. As journalists, we have a front row seat to all this.
Okay, I've seen the cover. It looks fantastic, and there's so much more that we want to delve into on the inside of that brilliant magazine. But before we really delve deeper, from 50 to 100, it is justified because of that immense talent pool and the achievers that we have here in the country. But give us a little bit of a sneak peek. What was the rationale? What were the new fields and some of the new names that came about? If you could even give us, a rough methodology so that everyone can understand the reason behind this move.
See, the methodology essentially is what we decide how they have performed in their respective fields over the past year.
Yeah.
Because it's an annual list. So you need to also have the current achievements in the picture. But, it's also, this is a list which is called the most powerful women in business.
Yeah.
So we do not go only by the bottom line or the top line of the businesses. There are people who are doing enormous amount of great work and influence and wield a lot of influence in their respective areas. Okay. So that is something we wanted to capture. How much influence? How are you, sort of empowering others? Are you inspiring others to do the kind of work which you are doing with your work? So those are the kind of things we did, and I would encourage, without disclosing much, to everybody to read the issue, because the list is itself testimony to the kind of work which everybody else, these women achievers are doing. And I think it's high time we celebrate not just 15, but 100, and maybe even the larger ecosystem of all the women achievers across this country who are doing fabulous work and inspiring many others. Today we are talking about equal representation, pay parity, gender parity, and all of that. So all of that weaves into this kind of issue, because those are the kind of people who will actually take the movement forward. And we are at Fortune India particularly passionate about it.
At Fortune India, we're particularly passionate about it. Ajita, hats off to you to start off with in celebrating the fact that you've put this list together with the rest of the team. When we talk about some of the trends, I've read some of the stories, especially the one on climate change, which I want to come to later. But what were some of the trends that you picked up? Because this is something you've been covering for years. And obviously, every year presents its own unique set of new cases, challenges, methodologies, like Saurabh was saying. So what was different this year?
Well, in terms of, I won't say what is different, but I'm really excited about the kind of stories we have told this time. Since you know that there's a huge backlash happening
Yes.
beyond the Atlantic
Absolutely.
when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, one of our lead stories, we're actually asking does diversity really impact meritocracy?
Yeah.
The reason for the backlash there back in the US is because the question meritocracy was being questioned.
Yes.
So and that's the reason the government has scrapped funding. A lot of companies have also scrapped their
Yes.
DEI initiative, which is, I think, rather unfortunate. But the reason for that backlash was meritocracy. And so the question we have asked is, does meritocracy really kind of come in the way of diversity, equity, and inclusion? So basically, in that story, we have spoken to experts from across the globe.
Right.
So it is not just our Indian leaders, but global leaders we have spoken to. And one thing came out is, the whole meritocracy debate and question is coming up because we're just doing diversity for the sake of doing it.
Just lip service.
It's lip service. It's a tick in the box activity to show to show off, to flaunt in our annual reports that, look, we have gone and hired so many women or so many people from the LGBTQAI community or people with disabilities. So hiring is very easy. Okay, the challenge is retaining.
Absolutely.
So the moment it comes to going up the ladder, we don't have quality. So it all has to start, just as they say, charity begins at home. So you have to kind of start skilling people.
Right.
I mean, there's a huge job talent crisis.
Globally.
Globally and in India.
Yes.
I mean, skilled talent is a huge
100%.
issue. So obviously, if you hire from a wider pool, it's good, but the wider pool should be equipped. They should be skilled. So organizations need to invest in skilling. That is something which came up very strongly, that organizations need to invest in skilling. And it's not just, and it's, you hire people and also skill them and build talent which can be used by the industry at large. Don't just hire and skill for yourself. Make them capable so that you're able to provide that talent to the industry at large.
Yeah.
That is what came up in a big way.
You spoke of the backlash, especially across the Atlantic, and you also spoke to so many experts around the world. What I want to understand, and I'm guessing the audience has a similar question, is that are those winds of change blowing across the world? Is there fear of executive action somewhere changing the entire, cultural kaleidoscope, so to speak, and what's happening with corporates around the world?
Yes, there is fear.
Okay.
There is fear. It's very much there. But the good news in India is because our DEI initiatives are at different levels of evolution.
Right.
So, and the Indian companies are not pulling it back. The global companies don't want to talk about it. So many of them, what they have done is they may not be having a DEI vertical per se, but they have blended it with their HR department.
Okay.
So that's what they've done. But in India, as of now, people have not come out in the open saying that they will scrap their DEI initiatives. No, they haven't. Nobody has. Nobody is even talking about it.
Yeah.
And the Indian companies, I think they are seeing that it's like looking at it as a great opportunity for them to build their DEI narrative. Because if you look at it, our culture is very inclusive, right?
Yes.
Our culture is very inclusive. Yes, it is off late because of the influence of other countries of the West and all. We are also looking at DEI as just as a tick in the box activity. But DEI is very much there in our culture. So there is hope for Indian companies to go ahead in this journey and actually become trendsetters.
Here at Fortune India, we're fortunate enough to have conversations with some of the industry leaders. And what I gather when you and I have had these conversations with them as well is that like you said, it's a cultural thing in India. It's far more inclusive. It's far more democratic and secular. And yes, while there are Western concepts here, there's already an intrinsic, innate Indian solution that we've had in place with our culture. Is that the right way of looking at it?
Yes, we talk about Ardhanarishwar, right? It is part of our culture. So obviously we are inclusive right at the corner.
Or Vasudev Kutumbakam.
Yes,
yes.
So it is very much there in our culture. It's just that, we have to kind of evoke that connect those emotions once again and
Yeah.
build upon it.
Very interesting. So, Saurabh, I think that's
Yeah,
an
I just
interesting
wanted to add one point to the diversity point. Even in our list, if we come back to the issue
Yeah.
of the list which we have drawn up, the list itself is very diverse, even within the fact that they are all women achievers.
Yeah.
But even there, we have ensured, and by sort of elaborating on it and expanding that list, we have also ensured that people from diverse walks of life within the business environment come in. For instance, there have been even in earlier years people from the entertainment sphere. There have been people from technology. There have been people from manufacturing. There have been
Right.
people from finance, banking. The whole gamut.
Politics, policy,
Politi-
everything.
policy making.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say politics so much as policy.
Policy
We
making,
are looking at policymakers. And we are, you have Nirmala Sitharaman right there. I mean, 8 consecutive budgets. Which other achiever has had 8 consecutive budgets? And look at the way the finance minister has navigated. That's why we call her the navigator extraordinaire. Because the way she has navigated the economy amidst really tough times. First COVID, and now geopolitical tensions continuing for the last 2-3 years. And now you never know what comes from across the Atlantic, like
Yeah.
you said.
Yeah.
So you don't know. These are the tariff wars, for instance. So in all this, the Madam Finance Minister is navigating this country, and we are doing well. So I think that needs to be acknowledged. There's law, there are legal luminaries there. There are, there's a whole gamut, and I'm so proud of this, the way the team has put it together. I could just go on and on.
But I must say this, and because this is a behind the scenes, I can take the liberty of doing this. There have been so many top leaders and top communications professionals who've reached out to me through the course of this, when this list was being drafted, saying, how do you get onto that list? How do we actually level up on our ranking from last year? So clearly everyone's tuned in. It's a very illustrious, very, very sought after list. And I think it really boils down to that level of research that the team puts in, the credibility that comes with what everyone is doing out here. But Ajita, is that something that you've come across? Is it something where people genuinely want to be on that list based on your
Yes,
reporting?
Of course, everyone wants to be on that
Yeah,
list.
yeah.
In fact, there are some women leaders I reached to who are not on our list, and they did ask me, "Ho kya raha hai? Why are we not on the list?" So I said, "Yeah, next time, we've at least made that effort to make a
50 to
list.
100,
Yeah,
yeah.
move to 50 to 100. I mean, we will. I'm sure you'll make it sooner or later. So."
No, it is. And also, in terms of some of the leaders who've obviously shown up several times on the list, I'm guessing sort of that would call for a Hall of Fame sort of approach.
Yes, I mean, those are people who we want to showcase
Yes.
as the people right there who can then empower and inspire many others
Yes.
across the years, and they've been there, and they've, like I said, the finance minister herself, Zia Modi, for instance, Sudha Murthy, these are people who are iconic. They've and now the women in tech, for instance, Roshni Nadar Malhotra. So these are people who are doing fabulous jobs sometimes in a man's world, if you want to use that phrase. And the point and remember, like talking about who wants to be on the list, remember it's a fortune list.
Absolutely.
So it is, by definition, it is aspirational, right? You want to be a Fortune MPW listee, so therefore I think that part we need to understand. That is why so much over the weeks and months internally there has been deliberation among Fortune India's senior editors. Ajita overrules me. I try to make a point, and all of that happens, and then we say, no, this is the person, and she then explains the point. So we do a lot of debate, right, Ajita? I mean, we've had multiple conversations on each and every member of that list,
Yeah.
and you see, it
We've
looks
had
like
major arguments about who
absolutely,
should be
and that's
on the
what
top
is
50,
That's what
who
yes,
should not
and
be on the-
that's the beauty of it,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So because we've expanded the list, it's all the more necessary that we choose the really good top 100.
Yeah.
When you say 100 most powerful women in a country this large, it's still a very small
fraction,
number.
yeah.
I mean, there are many others who are doing extraordinary work, and I'm sure over the course of the next few years, they will come onto the list as well. So that was the idea, that you broad base it, get more people in, inspire many others.
In fact, in our stories that we have told,
Yeah.
we have covered a lot of women who have not really made it to the list but are doing exceptionally good work.
Okay.
So there's a story which a colleague of mine has put together, Shamali has put together. It's on women-led aggregators.
Okay.
So these are small aggregator-led businesses who are kind of empowering craftspersons. So it could be a weaver,
Yeah.
it could be a a painter who's making folk art, or somebody who's making jewelry.
Right.
So these are really small entrepreneurs, micro entrepreneurs, and there's this 2-3 women entrepreneurs who have created a e-commerce like platform. It's an aggregator model. So if I'm a weaver, I can go onto the platform and sell.
Wow.
Okay, so these are stories again. They are so small that, I mean, they may not make it to a list in the top 100. They may not be in the top 100, but they're doing fabulous work, and we had to celebrate them. So that was one. Then another story, which the other colleague Arnav has done, is on women who are making an impact. So, for instance, he's spoken to Sunita Ghosh of Rangasutra. So Rangasutra is inspired by the Amul model. It's a cooperative of women craftspersons,
Right.
and they work with craftspersons in Rajasthan. They work with craftspersons in Jammu and Kashmir and another state I'm not able to remember. So they work, and it is exactly the Amul model. So all the women have a stake in the business, have a skin in the game.
Yeah.
And Rangasutra is like Fab. It's like Fab India. Rangasutra is also, kind of becoming a big entity, an entrepreneur, a craftsperson, weaver-led movement that they're doing.
And coming back to some other bigger ones, for instance, Ajita, look at the women in pharma.
Yeah.
That's another sector where a lot of women are leading the charge, right? You have the Reddy sisters, very much at the top of our heap, one of the top 10 people in the list.
Yeah.
I mean, the Reddy sisters are doing a fabulous job of showing the way in terms of how various people, each one doing their own thing to make the Apollo Hospitals Group a fabulous enterprise. There is Amira Shah in Metropolis in healthcare, the overall healthcare sector. There is Lupin, where Vinita Gupta is doing a fabulous job. But yet, there is a story which we have in this thing that many more women need to come into the pharma space as well, and healthcare.
Yeah.
But healthcare is the one area where we have some of these iconic people who can then empower many others.
And I must say this, and Ajita might not say it herself, but Ajita travels across the country, gets stories that most of us are hearing for the first time, which is fascinating. Hats off to you for that. And you understand what's happening across India and Bharat. For instance, tech companies talk about empowering women, rural empowerment as well, in terms of giving them access to data and giving them access to connectivity.
Yes.
It's a timely sort of a mention, because this is the month where everyone here at Fortune India, especially on our social media channels, we were talking about Starlink coming through its partners Jio and Airtel to India. Right? What does this mean for rural connectivity? I remember when I had gone down to rural parts of West Bengal, that there were certain villages where the men were not giving the ladies in the house a 4G phone, right? That changes completely with connectivity. So I think these are some great stories that are coming out in terms of technology and in the digital age as well.
And there is, you'll be surprised to see that there are a lot of this. The rural women is really empowered, really empowered and really forward-looking. So we put together we are going to put together a story on specialty coffee very soon, and that took us to Araku.
That's a spoiler alert for everyone then.
So that took us to Araku, took us to Koraput and all these places.
Yes.
And it is women-led business. All of them are the farmers. The movement is the coffee movement is being led by women farmers. Wow. So Araku, if you take Araku for instance, so when the Nandi Foundation set up the plantations out there many years ago, the male farmers, what they were doing was they were chopping off the trees to kind of sell firewood and earn a living.
Okay.
And there was absolutely no biodiversity there. So, what Nandi Foundation did was they went and started speaking they realized that they should speak to the women of the family. And because they said that it is the women who understand the importance of biodiversity, the importance of nature, because they are the ones who suffer the most. So they kind of built a narrative where the women was given the power.
Right.
And it was, they kind of went ahead with the plantations through women. It was the women who started working, and the women also liked doing it because these were horticulture. It was not like you don't have to spend hours together in the paddy field.
Yeah.
So you spend lesser hours and you are able to kind of build the
And
No.
Ajita, building on that theme, I've managed to catch a couple of
Yeah.
stories from the issue, and I can't wait to get my hands on it as soon as
Yeah.
it's out on stands. But also, women and climate change. That was a fascinating revelation to understand that the impact of something like climate change is felt by a particular community more than the other one. I mean,
Yes.
that was something, honestly, I must confess, was a revelation to me.
Yes, yes. And again, women are the worst victims when it comes to climate
Exactly,
change.
exactly.
So, what some of the climate-led businesses are doing, they saw merit and in involving them women in their businesses, because since they are the worst sufferers, they're more empathetic. So they go and sell harder. So in a, say for instance, a solar power business.
Okay.
So they always have women in the front because it is the women who they say do a better job of selling solar panels than men.
Wow.
So
I need to also add here, Ayush, that the fact of the matter is that this list also serves, while it celebrates these 100 women achievers, it's also somewhere a reminder that many, many more things remain to be done. Now, there is a policy awareness. The good news is the government, the policymakers are aware that much more needs to be done. There is a lot of discussion around getting more women in the labor force, more, representation of women on boards of directors, at the top end of the companies, the corporate ladder, leaking, fixing the leaking pipeline of, people falling off the workforce and coming back after, delivering their child, and coming back after, say, marriage or whatever, after a break in their careers and coming back and then staking claim to the top leadership positions. Those are important discussions which these kind of lists, the kind which Fortune brings out, are also pointing to. That here are these women who have done it. There is no reason why you cannot do it. Now, I personally I believe, and I think many of us believe, that you need to raise your hand and ask and demand your position. It does not, you should not allow yourself to be overlooked.
Yeah.
So therefore, I think that is a very important lesson which everybody needs to understand and take home, that these are women who have done it because they have staked their claim. They are excellent, they have done their work, and they have staked their claim in their workplace or in their areas of influence. That is why they are role models.
Before we wrap up, I think it's been a fascinating conversation, but if we have to now just tell everyone, which they anyways do, pick up this issue of Fortune India, as my senior colleagues, as the editor-in-chief, you have to give us one Easter egg, which probably would be an incentive for someone to rush right now to the stands or go to Maxter, pick it up, and then tell us why they should pick this issue up. Give us one small 10-second sneak peek into something that we probably would need to read between the lines for.
well, our stories are not about
this issue.
about the women breaking the glass ceiling.
Okay.
It is much beyond that. It is about how women are getting empowered across sectors. So these are not sob stories.
Yeah.
So as to how women is not able to break the glass ceiling or whatever it is. So these are not sob stories. These are very, very inspiring stories. Be it our climate change story, women in climate change story, be our story on, there's another story we are doing is on how conventional sectors, like very traditional sectors, are kind of realizing that they need to have women in the workforce. So these are like auto, other manufacturing companies, solar.
Okay, I can't just get one.
It's very different.
Can't just get one from Ajita. Saurav, I look forward to reading the editor's,
I'll give
the
you
editor's
one.
note. But you have to give me one.
I'll give
which
you
is not
one.
even then the editor's note.
Absolutely. I'll give you one, the list itself. Because, and I don't say it for effect, I'm saying this because there are some interesting names which people may not have thought of, but who you will then realize, yes, these are achievers indeed, and we may not have thought about this readily. So, and I completely endorse what Ajita has said. These are stories, and this whole issue is about empowerment and celebrating that empowerment. They are not sob stories, and they're not saying that, this has not happened, this has not happened. It's about, celebrating what has happened happened and being mindful of what much more can happen. So that's what this issue is about, and I would urge everybody to go and read it.
Yeah, they're going to
and
get much more than they
Absolutely.
would get in any other.
That's for sure. And even though we might be the ones saying
Yeah.
it, but the
We
fact
really
is,
enjoy.
and I welcome feedback from everybody. I get a lot of feedback on my social media piece, handles, LinkedIn particulars, and others. So I would really welcome feedback, and the reader is the best judge ultimately. So, and the reader knows best. So I think I welcome feedback, and all of us have worked really hard for it, and we are we really enjoyed putting it together.
Yes, and in that spirit of being democratic, diverse, inclusive, thank you for this chat. And like Saurabh mentioned, his social media handle and all of ours are showing up there. But most importantly, you're watching this on Fortune India's social media handle. So please subscribe, like, comment, the usual stuff to do. And we will see you in the next one. Please grab a copy of this special issue of Fortune India. See you soon.